So I applied for the internship. I had a phone interview, which was completely unexpected. Didn't even know they were calling. I received a letter saying that I was accepted into the internship program in March before I was departing for Cleveland in May. When we got to Cleveland, all of the interns were put up at a dorm. We all showed up to work on the first day, had no idea what to expect. I was placed in the External Affairs Division, and it ended up being a perfect fit for me. So the External Affairs Division dealt with all of the affiliated groups, it dealt with all of the members of Congress, the governors, all of the VIPs. So we were responsible basically for everyone except the delegates attending the convention and making sure that they had their lodging, making sure they had their tickets, transportation. One of the tasks that I was given towards the end of my journey in Cleveland was to plan and execute the entire credential distribution process for all of the affiliated groups. Your credential is your ticket to get into the convention, and they were worn on lanyards, and if you lost it, you couldn't get in. I got a phone call from Vice President-elect Mike Pence's Chief of Staff, and he wanted to know where the time governor's credentials were, and I was the point of contact for that. We had pulled his credentials because he was now going to be in a totally different category, which we didn't deal with. That was the campaign's responsibility. But I was shaking as I answered the phone, and he says, "Ms. Bonner, this is Governor Pence's Chief of Staff, and we're here to pick up his credentials, and they're not here." And so we're scrambling all over the place, trying to make sure it wasn't an error on our end, and by the end of the day, it wasn't. His credentials were somewhere else, of course, and he was at the convention, as we all know. But it was pretty funny and a pretty cool experience to be able to say that I spoke to Governor Pence, now Vice President Pence's Chief of Staff, and helped him solve his minor crisis of locating his credentials. December rolled around after the election. It was the 1st of December, and I saw that many of my friends who I worked with at the convention were all landing jobs with the Presidential Inaugural Committee. And so I kind of reached out to some of my former staff that I worked with and told them that I would be available to come to DC if they needed any help. Again, not expecting anything to come of that at all because I was still a student and it was just my Christmas break. But they reached out to me and offered me a job. Within 24 hours, I booked a flight, found a place to live for almost 2 months, and left for DC. And so it didn't look back from there. My job at the Presidential Inaugural Committee was the assistant to the director and deputy director for ticketing invitations. That either meant that I was helping them make to-do lists for the day or that I was planning a breakfast for my director's super PAC as a thank you to all the major donors. When I told him that I was in the event planning field, he was like, "Oh, perfect, you can plan a breakfast for me all by yourself." To start working in Cleveland at the convention was an opportunity of a lifetime and something that I never imagined that I would do. And if anything, being tasked with planning and executing the credential distribution process, it just gave me confidence. And sometimes people lack confidence and then they're not able to perform their job to the best of their ability. And after successfully planning and executing that plan for the credential distribution, it really gave me the confidence to say, hey, I can plan a breakfast on my own and I can work with all of these people who are much older than I am and know that I'm going to get the job done in the right way.